Hello, boys and girls. We are back with chapters 9 and 10 today. We are almost halfway through this book. So far we have learned in chapters 1 through 4, we have learned about Opal's mom. We met Opal, we met the preacher, we figured out how Opal came to get Winn-Dixie. In chapters 5, we learned about Opal's church and how their church is a little different from normal churches, that they all bring their own folded chairs to church, and we read while Winn-Dixie caught a mouse. In chapter 6, we met Miss Franny, which is the town's school library, not the school library, the town librarian, and we learned that she had come into contact with a bear once before, and that's when she started telling us the story. In chapters 7 and 8, we hear about this story. We know that Mrs. Franny was reading a book at the library one day, and she smelled a peculiar smell. And she looked up, and there was a bear just standing there. And she threw a book at the bear and was like, "Be gone!" And so the bear left. And then we found out that everyone in the town started picking on her, saying that they seen the bear reading the book. And the bear was just wondering if, he could have the book for one more week. In chapter 8, honestly, I forgot about what we read in chapter 8. It was so long ago. So, let's pull it up. Aha! All right, in chapter 8, Opal, she wanted to get Winn-Dixie a collar and a leash that match. And she went to Gertrude's pet store, and, she found one that was really nice, except the only issue is that the one that she liked was really expensive. And so she asked the cashier if she could start an installment plan, and he was like, probably not. I don't think Gertrude, the owner, would like that. And so she was like, okay, what if I get a job here? It looks like this place needs to be cleaned a little bit. And so the man was like, all right, I'll make you a deal. If Gertrude, the parrot, doesn't react bad to Winn-Dixie, then you can have a job here. And so she got a job. So at the end of chapter 8, she's very happy because she had just gotten her first friend, which is Miss Franny. She had just been invited to her first party by a 5-year-old turning 6, and she just got a job at the pet shop. All right. So let's read about what's going to happen in chapters 9 and 10 today. Just about everything that happened to me that summer happened because of Winn-Dixie. For instance, without him, I would never have met Gloria Dump. He was the one who introduced us. What happened was this. I was riding my bike home from Gertrude's Pets, and Winn-Dixie was running along beside me. We went past Dunlap and Stevie Dewberry's house, and when Dunlap and Stevie saw me, they got on their bikes and started following me. They wouldn't ride with me. They just rode behind me and whispered things that things that I couldn't hear. Neither one of them had any hair on his head because their mama shaved their heads every week during the summer. Because of the one time Dunlap got fleas in his hair from their cat, Sadie. And now they look like two identical bald-headed babies, even though they weren't twins. Dunlap was 10 years old like me, and Stevie was 9 and tall for his age. I can hear you, I hollered back at them. I can hear what you're saying, but I couldn't. Winn-Dixie started to race way ahead of me. You'd better watch out, Dunlap hollered. That dog is headed right for the witch's house. Winn-Dixie, I called, but he kept on going faster and hopped over a gate and went into the most overgrown jungle of a yard that I had ever seen. You better go get your dog out of there, Dunlap said. That witch will eat that dog, Stevie said. Shut up, I told him. I got off my bike and went up to the gate and hollered, Winn-Dixie, you better come out of there. But he didn't. She's probably eating him right now, Stevie said. He and He and Dunlap were standing behind me. She eats dogs all the time. Get lost, you bald-headed babies, I said. Hey, said Dunlap, that ain't very nice. That ain't a very nice way for a preacher's daughter to talk, he said, and Stevie backed off. He and Stevie backed off a little. I stood there and thought for a minute. I finally decided that I was more afraid of losing Winn-Dixie than I was of having to deal with the dog-eating witch. So I went through the gate and into the yard. All right, let's make a prediction. What do we think is going to happen? So Dunlap and Stevie are calling this mysterious neighbor that we haven't met yet a witch. And telling Opal things like, the witch is going to eat your dog if you don't go and get him. So, even though Opal was a little scared, she decided, I'm more scared of losing Winn-Dixie than I am of uh, uh, a witch eating him. All right, so let's make a prediction. What do we think is going to happen when Opal gets to the other side of this fence? My prediction is that Opal's going to find this witch, and she's probably going to be a very nice person, actually, because of all the books that I've read in the past. Usually when the neighborhood thinks that someone is very mean or like a witch or something, they're just misunderstood. They just want to be heard. All right. We'll tell the preacher what happened to you. Excuse me. That witch is going to eat the dog for dinner and you for dessert, Stevie said. We'll tell the preacher what happened to you, Dunlap shouted after me. By then, I was deep in the jungle. There was every kind of thing growling everywhere. There were growing everywhere. There were flowers and vegetables and trees and vines. Winn-Dixie? I said. I heard. This dog sure likes to eat. I went around a really big tree covered in moss, and there was Winn-Dixie. He was eating something right out of the witch's hand. She looked up at me. This dog sure likes peanut butter, she said. You can always trust a dog that likes peanut butter. She was old, with crinkly brown skin. She had on a big floppy hat with flowers all over it, and she didn't have any teeth. But she didn't look like a witch. She looked nice, and Winn-Dixie liked her. I could tell. I'm sorry he got into your garden, I said. You ain't got to be sorry, she said. I enjoy little company. My name's Opal, I told her. My name's Gloria Dump, she said. Ain't that a terrible last name? Dump? My last name is Bulani, I said. Sometimes the kids at school back home in Wetley call me lunch meat. Ha, Gloria Dump laughed. What about this dog? What do you call him? Winn-Dixie, I said. Winn-Dixie thumped his tail on the ground. He tried smiling, but it was hard with his mouth full of peanut butter. Winn-Dixie, Gloria Dump said. You mean like the grocery store? Yes, ma'am, I said. Whoa, she said. That takes the strange name prize, don't it? Yes, ma'am, I said. I was just fixing to make myself a peanut butter sandwich, she said. You want one too? All right, I said. Yes, please. Go on, sit down, she said, pointing at the lawn chair with the back busted all out. But sit down careful. I sat down careful, and Gloria Dump made me a peanut butter sandwich on white bread. Then she made one for herself and put her false teeth in to eat it. When she was done, she said to me, my eyes ain't too good at all. I can't see nothing but the general shape of things, so I got to rely on my heart. Why don't you go on and tell me everything about yourself so as I can see you with my heart? And then because Winn-Dixie was looking up at her like she was the best thing he had ever seen, and because the peanut butter sandwich had been so good, and because I had been waiting for a long time to tell some person everything about me, I did. All right. So my prediction came true. Was your prediction right? So my prediction was that, usually the character in a book or a movie or whatever that people think is a witch or people think is very, very mean is just misunderstood and they just want somebody to talk to. So that's what it seems like is happening in this case. It sounds like to me that Gloria Dump is just misunderstood and people aren't really that nice to her. We know that she can hardly see. She's blind. She can see like the general shape of things. So she says she has to rely on her heart. So she wants Opal to tell her everything about her so that she can see her with her heart. Well, let's go ahead and read about what Opal is going to tell her. Chapter 10. I told Gloria Dump everything. I told her how me and the preacher had just moved to Naomi, and how I had to leave all my friends behind. I told her about my mama leaving, and then listed the 10 things I knew about her. I explained that here in Naomi, I missed mama more than I ever had in Watley. I told her about the preacher being like a turtle, hiding all the time in his shell. I told her about finding Winn-Dixie in the produce department, and how because of him I have become friends with Miss Franny Block and got a job working for a man named Otis and Gertrude's Pets, and got invited to Sweetie Pie Thomas's birthday party. I even told Gloria Dump how Dunlap and Stevie Dewberry called her a witch, but I told her they were stupid, mean, bald-headed boys, and I didn't believe them, not for long anyhow. And the whole time I was talking, Gloria Dump was listening. She was nodding her head and smiling and frowning and saying, and is that right? I could feel her listening with all her heart, and it felt good. You know what? She said when I was all done. What? Could be that you got more of your mama in you than just red hair and freckles and running fast. Really? I said. Like what? Like maybe you got her green thumb. Two of us could plant something and see how it grows. Test your thumb out. Okay, I said. What Gloria Dump picked for me to grow was a tree. Or she said it was a tree. To me, it looked more like a plant. She had me dig a hole for it and put it in the ground and pat the dirt around it tight, like it was a baby and I was tucking it into its bed. What kind of tree is this? I asked Gloria Dump. It's a wait and see tree, she said. What does that mean? It means you gotta wait for it to grow up before you know what it is. Can I come back and see it tomorrow? I asked. Child, she said, as long as this is my garden, you're welcome in it. But that tree ain't going to have changed much by tomorrow. But I want to see you too, I said. Said Gloria Dump. I ain't going nowhere. I'll be right here. I woke Winn-Dixie up then. He had peanut butter in his whiskers, and he kept yawning and stretching. He licked Gloria Dump's hand before we left, and I thanked her. That night, when the preacher was tucking me into bed, I told him how I got a job at Gertrude's Pets, and I told him about making friends with Miss Franny Block and getting invited to Sweetie Pie's party, and I told him about meeting Gloria Dump. Winn-Dixie lay on the floor, waiting for the preacher to leave so he could hop up on the bed like he always did. When I was done talking, the preacher kissed me goodnight, and then he leaned way over and gave Winn-Dixie a kiss, too, right on top of his head. You can go ahead and get up there now, he said to Winn-Dixie. Winn-Dixie looked at the preacher. He didn't smile at him, but he opened his mouth wide like he was laughing, like the preacher had just told him the funniest joke in the world. And this is what amazed me the most. The preacher laughed back. Winn-Dixie hopped up on the bed, and the preacher got up and turned the light out. I leaned over and kissed Winn-Dixie, too, right on the nose. But he didn't notice. He was already asleep and snoring. All right. So, like I said, it sounds to me like Opal's life is getting better. She's meeting all kinds of new people because of Winn-Dixie. So, go ahead and do your assignment for chapters 9 and 10 today, and you will hear more of this story next week. Have a good weekend, guys. Bye.